Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Lizzy Klein to the show. Lizzy is the founder of Mazi and Zo. Mazi and Zo is an e commerce jewelry company based out of New York City that is all about effortless fine jewelry with personality. And today I'm going to ask Lizzy a few questions about her entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that she has used to start and grow her business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks, Lizzy. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
So first of all, a very unique name for a jewelry company. Can you share, how did you get the inspiration for Lizzy and Zo?
Sure. Originally, when I started Mazi and Zo, its very beginning, a sorority jewelry company. And so I wanted a name that would be familiar to sorority women, would sound sort of familiar, and kind of on trend to have two names that went together. And I did a lot of research to find something somewhat meaningful, but not too precious. And Mazi in Greek means together, and Zoe means life. So I mushed them up a little bit to make Mazi and Zo, which when people try and read it, they often mispronounce. And when they try and write it, they often misspell it. So that's a little bit of a challenge, but customers seem to appreciate it. So
that's great. So you are Greek by origin, I'm assuming. Okay. So maybe you share with me, I mean, jewelry is such a, I would say, generic. I don't know if that's the right word. I mean, there's so many different kind of jewelry out there. How do you first of all find that this is the category that we want to create a business in? Because there must be a lot of competition. And then also what specific kind of jewelry you want to create. Can you share a little bit about your thought process when you were beginning to start this business?
Sure, absolutely. It's so you're 100% right. Jewelry is a really saturated market. It's one of the most expensive social media ad campaigns you can run. So it is important to differentiate. And I originally launched the business for sorority women. Because what I noticed online in around 2018, when influencers were coming up, a huge percentage of the younger ones were sorority women. And I would see that they were wearing their sorority sweatshirts and they were wearing, designer bags and things like that. They put their sorority letters on everything, but they weren't wearing any sorority jewelry. And so I started looking at why aren't they doing that? And it turns out they were trying to sell them the same sorority jewelry they sold me 30 years ago, and it wasn't cool then. So I wanted to develop a line that was affordable and accessible, but still high quality and, on trend for those women. And what's evolved to differentiate besides, that is a niche market. I stand very far apart from the other brands in my category. They're all very traditional old brands, or there are a couple of sort of young new companies that aren't doing fine jewelry. So they're making sort of little, less expensive, not long lasting stuff. And then my business has evolved because so many people appreciated some of the shapes and symbols I was making for the sororities. So for instance, there's a sorority called Kappa Alpha Theta, and their symbol is a kite. And people liked the kite shape by itself, even if they weren't Kappa Alpha Theta. And so that led me, they appreciated our design style, which is super minimalist. And what's evolved is a line that each piece stands alone. You can wear one piece at a time and it looks great, but everything actually coordinates seamlessly. So for the current trends right now where people mix and match their earrings and everything gets layered and stacked, a lot of people are intimidated by that. They think they need to, be a stylist to make it work. And the great thing about my line is it all just goes together. You can make any combo and it'll work. So you can see I threw 3 on.
Yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful. Obviously, I don't know much about jewelry. So like when someone is trying to purchase this kind of jewelry, are they like going online and they're searching sorority jewelry, or are they Like, what is the customer journey for your specific target audience? How do they find
Sure.
you as opposed to other
Sure.
companies?
I have a couple of, I do have an interesting mix of audiences. So for sorority women, it's a combination of, if you search for sorority jewelry, if you search for Kappa Alpha Theta jewelry, I'm going to come up pretty high in your results. And my pictures, it just looks different and they like it. So that works. I obviously do outreach as well to the sorority chapters. Direct marketing. What's nice about that is I'm not doing direct marketing to consumers. It's almost akin to a B2B because there's an organization on campus that has contact information, and that's reaching anywhere from 60 to 500 women with one outreach. My consumer for the broader line comes to me in a bunch of different ways. A lot of it, certainly I launched the brand as, friends and family, and it's extended from there. I have, done all kinds of tests with every form of marketing you can imagine. And what it's come down to is a couple of niche products tend to bring the customer in and then they shop for more. So for instance, my vote necklace that I launched in 2020 in order to raise money for Michelle Obama's organization When We All Vote, got a whole lot of attention in the press. Again, there were a lot of vote necklaces out there, but mine was a little chicer. And I built a huge email list off the sales from that. It's actually funny. I have a feeling we're going to be reigniting the vote concept this year. So, better.
So what were you doing before starting this company? Like, how did you get interested in jewelry, or business in general? Like, are you an entrepreneur? What motivated you to go into business for yourself?
Sure. So I started my career in fashion only for a couple of years, became disillusioned. Frankly, the fashion business can be a little sketchy and, wasn't sort of as businessy as I wanted. I kind of stumbled into the New York City startup community, have worked in startups here in New York for 25 plus years as a founder, as working for other people's startups, as an advisor and investor. So very much in the community. And immediately prior to this business, I had the previous business was an app in the beauty category that did really well. And then I was kind of camping out as an entrepreneur in residence with a small venture capital fund, thinking about, hey, what am I going to do next, when I had that aha moment looking at Instagram.
Wow, so you went from an app software business to do you call it direct to consumer? You're selling?
I consider my business primarily direct to consumer, but all the startups that I've worked on in New York City, they've all been in the various consumer categories. So health and fitness, I've worked in, beauty, doing hair, not me doing hair, working on digital products related to hair products, home shopping, all of those things. So I've always been focused on what is it people want.
And in terms of the material of the jewelry itself, like, is it some sort of a precious material like gold, silver? And what is the manufacturing process like? Are you getting this manufactured within the US? Is it like from an Asian country like China?
Absolutely not. I am very proud that we manufacture, we are handcrafted right here in New York City. I do not want to do any manufacturing overseas. It's important to me to engage the New York City manufacturing community. And I use exclusively solid 14 karat gold and pure sterling silver. Both are recycled. That's one of the beautiful things about fine metals, is that they can be recycled and repurposed. So my business is as sustainable as I can. Our manufacturing process is called lost wax casting, which is how jewelry has been made since the beginning of time. I will not bore your audience with that. Everyone can Google. But it's, it is really old fashioned. If you look at my Instagram reels or you can watch some of it happening.
Oh, very interesting. And that is completely, so you place an order, so you have the suppliers or the the hand, what do you call them? The artisans, I guess, who create this jewelry. You place the order, you purchase it in wholesale, and then you sell it. Is that the idea?
Right. So we send digital files to one shop that 3D prints models. And then that's the advancement in technology and this kind of jewelry making. That used to need to be carved from stone. Now we can do a 3D print, but and then a mold, then that goes to my workshop where something is, a mold is created, and then each piece is done by hand and polished by hand.
So this is kind of business that is heavily based on like the design of the jewelry itself. How do you, so you're kind of coming up with the design yourself, or maybe you have some help there. And what happens if, let's say, you placed an order for like, 500 of a certain kind of piece, but you find that it's not selling? Maybe the good thing is that you can repurpose it, or like you can melt it again and create another design. Is that the idea? Or do you find that every time you create a new design or set of designs, it always sells out?
I mean, I wish that was the case, sure. But no, so what happens is, in general, I actually say that my business, every item is made to order, which is not actually true. I generally keep one or two of everything around. But what'll happen is, so for instance, when I had this, insane, basically Michelle Obama was wearing a vote necklace on television, which had everyone Googling for vote necklace. And, I had a huge influx of orders. I don't have that kind of numbers on hand. I call the workshop, we get it going, we ramp up as quick as we can. And the one, for better or worse, it just can't be sped up, the process. It's going to take 5 business days. There's no way to shortcut that part of things. But I have found that customers are comfortable with that. Customers who value sort of quality and sustainability and original design can handle waiting a few days.
What kind of, so I know you said that you had your own business. So did you invest your own money into starting this business? How did you pull up? What kind of investment go into creating this business?
Sure. So yeah, I'm 100% self-funded. The good news is that wasn't so many funds. I mean, gold is expensive. It just is. But if you think about sort of the design process, I probably, for the first test collection, it probably cost me, between iterating on designs, right, and recreating them. You don't tend to recycle the stuff right away, right? So I'm going to took me about 10 to get to the first design, to get it right, things like that. But all in, it was still probably, under $10,000 for my first full collection. And then, you know how beautiful and easy it is to use Shopify and Klaviyo, 8 million tools that can do this at a really low cost, which I, as an entrepreneur, appreciate. Because, I had to spend money on things like packaging and design and those pieces, but all in all, it was not a huge overhead. And then or a huge investment from the start, and I can keep overhead relatively low as long as I'm not holding a ton of inventory.
And so you created some pieces at the beginning, about $10,000 investment. And you, in terms of getting your first customers, did you just basically go online and start doing ad campaigns? How did you, or did you even try like selling it in person, like, going to these educational institutions, sorority groups, and try to pitch it that way? Like, was there any sort of idea validation process beforehand, or you basically said, let's invest $10,000, put it online, and see if people buy it?
So I would say I probably, I had a little bit of input on that first group. When I say 10,000, it was getting past the first product. First product all in was probably $1,000, right? And then I added to the collection. I think there were about 10 pieces in the first collection. And what I did before going online, before selling, was I brought it up. It's a licensed, I should say my sorority jewelry is a licensed business. So I have to submit those designs to the licensor and have them approved before I can do anything. So take that step. And then I made an appointment up at the Kappa Alpha Theta House here at Columbia University in New York City and asked them if I could host a study break. And college kids, if there's going to be, pizza and cookies and stuff like that, they're game. So everyone came, and I really wanted to see what real life college students thought of what we'd done. And 100% of the people who were there made a purchase. Technically, they made a pre-order. I didn't have, I had one of everything. I wasn't able to have merchandise on hand yet because I was testing it. So every single woman who came did a pre-order. That gave me a lot more confidence in the business. I initially rolled out with that one sorority, and I did direct mail campaigns. So one of the things about sorority houses is they have physical addresses. They have websites. They have, right? It's tedious, but I can send a letter to every single one. And so I started there. And then started adding additional sororities one by one. And again, I have to be licensed for each sorority. And then for each sorority, I have to have each piece licensed. So it's a little bit of a ramp up.
Wow. So what does that mean? Like, do you have to license it because you are using these names, alpha, whatever, and you're using these symbols? Is that the reason
I'm
you have
using
to?
their letters. So if
Okay.
I just came back from Kappa Kappa Gamma's convention. And so to use the 3 letters Kappa Kappa Gamma like that and target their audience, I need to be licensed to do it.
Wow.
Right. It's just like an MLB team or Disney, right? You can't use their marks and take advantage of their brand investment without paying licensing royalty.
Wow.
And
so now
they care very much what their brand's used, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure they probably have some say in the design, or like once you have created the design, they probably have to approve it or something like that before you can actually sell it.
They approve it. I will tell you, I've not yet had, the only rejection I had was because I did a photo wrong, not because the item was wrong. One sorority has, their symbol is a crescent moon. And in the photo, I had the crescent moon pointing one way and their actual logo goes the other way. That was easy. Flip the photo.
So you're targeting a very specific niche. Do you find that as you're building your brand, as you're, doing more, I don't know if you're doing advertising, but as you're putting your brand out there, are you trying to branch out of just the sorority business? Like, are you trying to direct more of like the mainstream audience as well? Is that your goal, like to become more mainstream?
And right. So when I was doing this test marketing, we're talking about it's spring of 2019. Sororities break up for the summer. I can't do a whole lot over the summer there. But what I was finding when I was experimenting and talking to people and just, showing it anywhere I could, was that people really like these shapes, right? That I make, a whole bunch of stars aren't so sorority specific. Anyone can wear them. And so we spent time ahead of holiday for 2019 developing a broader collection. We didn't go too far that first year, but adding, hearts and, a cross and a Jewish star and a flower, designs that people are comfortable with and are used to, so that I could have something to offer for people who were not affiliated with sorority. And did very well. At the end of 2019, I did some in-person events for holiday markets, and the shapes and symbols did really well here in New York. So I've sort of, that's one of my biggest business challenges, is where am I putting my effort? And right now, until the news of last week, which has changed my focus a little bit, I have been focused primarily on the sorority market. Frankly, to the point you raised earlier, it's where I'm most differentiated. And the sorority audience, the goal here is for that sorority woman to shop with me when she's in a sorority and continue to shop with me when she's graduated from college. So, and that's happened. I have customers who, I know the first thing they bought was a necklace with their sorority letters on it. And then a year later, they bought, a necklace with stars on it. So
yeah, I think that's one thing. Like you acquire a customer, and then you sell them new designs and things like that. But in terms of going after new customers, is jewelry purchase mostly an impulse purchase? Like, let's say a woman goes, she may not necessarily, or she may be looking for jewelry in general, going to different sites, and if she comes to your sites, maybe one design really speaks to her, and it's an impulse purchase, and she purchases at that point. Because jewelry is such, like, I guess, ubiquitous. There's so many different designs, so many different metals, so many different materials, that you can't really, unless it's like a very niche thing like a sorority, you can't really, or you have like a very well-known brand, you can't really target a customer like in a very specific way. Like, what is your experience?
So the experience I've had is that there are items like people do search for things like a lightning bolt necklace. I have a cute one. They search for something like, I have a weed necklace. They like the weed necklace. I've also had a lot of good press. My Zodiac necklaces were in Vogue Italia. My vote necklace was in the Huffington Post. My hashtag was in Entertainment Weekly. So people have found me, I think, through that. They found me through some bloggers share it. I have tested influencer marketing every which way I know how. So far, it has not yet worked for me. And I have invested a decent amount in Google ads as well as social media ads. And I'll tell you, the best performing thing for me continues to be SEO. Just straight SEO.
Wow. Have you tried TikTok or Instagram, and does it work?
Well, I don't think TikTok, I think jewelry is a more considered purchase at my price point. Sure, a $30 bracelet or something, something fun, I think is less considered. The other piece that's challenging for me on social media is, as you can see, my jewelry is very small. So even when I've had somebody kind of, big deal wearing it, it doesn't jump out at you. You don't necessarily notice unless it's being zoomed in on. So that's a challenge. I haven't cracked it yet, but in the time we're in right now, I've just decided to that's part of why I focus more on the jewelry market. On the sorority market, because I know how to reach them. I was at the national convention this week, right? I talked to probably 150 women from that sorority, and look forward to doing more business with them.
So you spoke briefly about price point. Can you share a little bit about how jewelries work, like this kind of jewelry? How does the price point differ, compared to yours versus more of a, I guess, well-known branded jewelry? Is it really depending on the material, or?
Sure. So, my goal is to provide jewelry at the most fair price I can. So I pretty much take my labor and materials, add enough to, keep the lights on, add a little bit of cushion because gold price changes every day. And that's sort of where I get to my pricing. Traditional jewelers, if you go, to the mall or on Madison Avenue to a jeweler's, they do more like 8 and 10x markup. And then you have an online jeweler. A lot of times, if they don't have a brick and mortar, it's going to be more like, 3 to 5x. And I'm a bit lower than that. Again, my goal. So for a comparable quality and brand, I am less expensive. The names are escaping me of who to write. The direct ones, I don't really want to go through, but I'm less expensive than they are. There is another big brand that I will tell, Majuri, that is venture backed, that they come in less expensive than me, but we're not talking about the same quality, which I'm not, no diss to them. It's a different product. And they also, we don't know if they're profitable.
Yeah, Majura is very well known. What sales channels are you selling? Is it primarily, of course, you said, you're going to in-person events and of course, targeting these sorority organizations directly. besides that, is it just your website, or are you selling on like other marketplaces like Amazon or Etsy or eBay and things like that?
The only other online marketplace that I'm in is back to the sorority jewelry. There's an affiliate marketplace that is run by the licensing organization. Very smart of them. They have an overarching site for all the sororities that they work with. And then many of the sororities themselves have a site, shoptridelt.com. And so I'm featured on those sites. And then the wholesale that I'm just starting to do outreach on. And that's primarily the issue you talked about earlier, that it can be expensive to have a lot of inventory. The wholesale economics and cash flow are really different from direct to consumer. So that's why I'm going slowly there. To your point, I don't want to end up with, having purchased and manufactured, 100 lightning bolt necklaces and then have them all returned to me. Right.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of your fulfillment and shipping, I mean, the great thing about your business is that, these items are really small and really light. So you probably don't need a big space to warehouse them. In terms of shipping, are you selling mostly in the US? And what are the complexities of shipping a jewelry? I'm assuming that you have to insure every package or something.
So my jewelry price point, we skipped over that, for a pair of silver earrings right now is $68 is probably my lowest. I mean, I sell them individually, so you can get, an earring for $34, you can get a thread or earring for $44 in silver. And I max out, under $350. Okay. So we're not talking about, sending $3,000 pieces through the mail. So I rarely insure, to be honest. I will insure something if there's, 5 necklaces in there, I'll insure it. But overall, I don't think it's worth, that sort of ROI on that probably doesn't shake out. And to be honest, the US Post Office has not lost a piece yet. Okay. I ship exclusively domestically. And that is because the experiments that I've done with shipping. So when I felt terrible. A sorority woman in Canada ordered 3 gold pieces. So that ends up being a pretty high ticket order. And when she went to pick it up at the post office, the dues were, astronomical, almost as much as she paid for jewelry. And I can't do that to somebody. And then in other places, like for instance, London has very strict rules about how jewelry is treated. In London. So I would have to have another facility at the docks in London to stamp my jewelry and inspect it, that's cost prohibitive. So right now, US domestic.
Cool. In terms of your team, are you a solopreneur, or do you have other team members that work with you? And how do you manage your business?
Sure. So primarily me. Full-time. I have a designer. I'm the creative director for the brand, as well as, marketing, fulfillment, operations, CFO, legal, all of those things. But I have an incredibly talented designer that I'm really lucky to work with. Daniel Kennedy Martin. I always mix up his name. He's a super talented, his true sort of talent and where he spends his time is designing very high-end men's jewelry. He happens to be a friend, and I asked him if he'd take a crack at this, and it's turned out to be a brilliant partnership. He has pushed the design forward in a way that would not have happened without his talent. And we have a great balance because, he'll always sort of want to go super fashion, and my customer isn't that fashion forward. And so we, have a good tension there. And I work with a production manager as well here in New York. The jewelry business is pretty insular. If I wanted to try and get things made on my own, it's really challenging. People do not want to work. You had mentioned how many jewelry brands there are in companies. The manufacturing shops and pieces here aren't really excited about working with some woman from the tech community who's never made jewelry in her life. That's sort of not where they want to spend their time. And so I have an expert production manager who's worked with a bunch of huge brands and has now gone out on her own to work with clients like me. And then, of course, I work with various agencies on marketing and other things.
And so have you never tried, or would you consider having jewelry pieces manufactured? I guess at this stage where your volume may not be that huge, it may not make sense to go overseas, right? Because maybe if you go to a country like India, let's say, for example, which has a huge jewelry business, and you find a lot of, very traditional jewelry makers, I guess. That may reduce your cost, but at the same time, you may not have the kind of turnaround, 5-day turnaround that you mentioned, that you have with working with some of the US makers.
Yeah, that's one limitation. And the other limitation is that it is important to me to keep production in New York City and support the New York City manufacturing community.
Okay.
That's a part of my ethos, that I want to work with the people here. We pay a fair wage. We, operate as sustainably and ethically as we can. And I can't see what's happening if it's far away.
Definitely. What is your future vision for the business? Do you want to scale this business? Like, where do you see this business, let's say, in 5 years?
So I have two answers for you. The 5-year answer, for sure want to scale this business. I would like to be in every sorority house in the country. I would also like to have, a much broader base for my broader unaffiliated designs. In the very immediate future, the news on Friday of overturning Roe v. Wade has me going back to wanting to make a difference and focus a little bit less on the scaling of my business. So I'm going to be launching a new design that with this, this design is, I don't know if you can see, there's a
female
woman,
design,
the Venus symbol for women.
Yeah.
I have not yet defined the parameters, but I'm going to launch a new piece with this, which are these threader earrings that people are super into. I'm going to launch that, and as a capsule collection to donate the proceeds to an organization that I support. I'm just working out the details, because literally struck me on Friday, and working out the details for that. So I anticipate being pretty focused on that for the next 4 to 6 months.
Oh, very cool. So in every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. Can you share maybe 1 or 2 of your top mistakes that kind of, jump out to you, things that you think, I should have not done? What did you learn from that, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Sure. I think one of the mistakes that I made with my current brand is, aside from, the name could be a little tricky, is it was really important to me to have sustainable, reusable packaging. I don't know, I have a million little jewelry boxes that are just sitting around that nobody needs, and there's such a waste of materials, that I was inspired by packaging I saw in another product, which was a little tin that was reusable. I bought something, it came in the tin. I kept using that tin to throw, my vitamins in, or some change and things like that. So I decided that that was how I wanted to go. My packaging is really simple. It's a puck-shaped little tin with my sticker on top and some packaging inside. But what I didn't totally think through is that when you make a round package, everything else needs to be round. So the jewelry card that your jewelry goes in needs to be round. The sticker that goes on top of it needs to be round. And it sounds trivial, but if I run out of something, I cannot run out and get it done right away. Right? I'm a little stuck. And so, for instance, I once did an event where I learned a lesson. I never sent the jewelry ahead, but I sent a bunch of the packaging and things ahead of time. Package didn't arrive in time. I had to run to a Michael's and basically redesign my packaging on the fly, because, I could bring stickers with me, but they don't make sense without the tin and that kind of thing. So that was, I'm not sure. I think I'd still do it again. People really like the packaging and they appreciate it. And I love when people post on social media, they put the tin up there. So there's that. But could have thought through the implications there, but, gone further downstream before I made the call.
So basically, I mean, something like this, do you think you made the decision in haste, or like you didn't think through all the costs and the thing? Like
Yeah.
what?
I think I made the decision too quickly and didn't, because I did not consider what it was going to mean for the rest of it.
Cool. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire round. And in this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions where you have to answer maybe in one word or one sentence. So the first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs or business professionals in 2022 and why?
In one sentence. I'm going to replace your book recommendation with a podcast recommendation. My favorite episode of Freakonomics is called The Upside of Quitting. Okay. And the reason I think everyone should listen to it is it reframes the concept of sunk cost and ROI in a way for entrepreneurs in particular is meaningful. It will help you understand when it's time to let go of something.
So is the lesson of that podcast that you should quit sooner than you want to, or what is the lesson there?
The lesson is to always evaluate, to take a look at anything you're doing and really look at it and understand sunk cost doesn't matter. Should I continue? And make the decision in that present moment. And I think that is incredibly valuable for a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included. You know, I grew up with the ethos of you don't quit anything, right?
Yeah.
Play soccer, you're not quitting. And of course, I would never quit on something that people were counting on me for. However, it was very helpful for me. For instance, my previous business had a natural winding down point, but for any entrepreneur, it's really hard to walk away from the thing that you love. And had to really take a look at it and say, you know what, this is not giving up. This is successful. Go to the next thing. So
yeah, definitely. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited
about? I'm excited that I think they've gotten really good, for me in particular, selfishly, with having a jewelry business. These sort of AI and AR tools for virtual try-on have gotten a whole lot better, and I'm looking forward to trying to incorporate. I want to be able to incorporate something that lets you try on earrings and sort of make designs for, because people have piercings all over and everywhere, and that you can now simulate that really well.
Are you offering any such things on your website right now, or no?
I'm not.
No. Okay.
It's not coming.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
I think my biggest productivity tip is to put your to-do list on your calendar, because we can all make that list, whether you want to say your list is 3 things or 5 things or 10 things. I know there's a lot of schools of thought around that. If you don't map out how long those things take, it doesn't matter. And so I not only put my top 3 priorities of the day on my calendar, I also put in things like lunch and exercise and walking the dog, because if you don't put those in, there's no time for priorities. And I think it really helps you focus on doing the right, your highest priority items that day.
And what happens if you put something in your calendar, and let's say you schedule something 30 minutes for something, right? And it actually takes you to do 45 minutes or 50 minutes. Now you have encroached on the next item of your thing. How do you manage that?
I mean, frankly, the same way you would if you hadn't put it on your calendar, right? I got to reassess at the end of that. I mean, I do try to, if I've said something's going to take, I'm going to spend a half hour on something. And I do try and take a step back and say, is it better for me to spend another half hour and finish, or is it better for me to switch gears? And to make that decision. But if I need to continue doing that for a half hour, okay, something else gets, but again, that happens whether I write it down or not. So.
A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things.
Sorry, can you say that again?
A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things.
I think that is a tie between Shopify and Canva. I'm really impressed with how both of them have evolved to serve their customers in a way that really empower, I am, just technical enough to be dangerous, and I'm not a designer by trade. The fact that between the two of those things, how far I can get, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, those are definitely great tools. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Norma Kamali. She is
Who's
the
that?
designer. I don't know if you're aware of her. She's an apparel designer who's been around. I think she launched in the 60s, maybe 70s. She's still working. She's still putting out great things. She has evolved with the times. She now on TikTok and Instagram is doing yoga videos with her granddaughter. She's just the coolest.
Cool. And final question, best business advice you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I'm thinking. Somebody once told me, here's one that I try and keep in mind. Somebody once told me you can learn something from everyone you talk to. And I thought that was really valuable advice for instance, you might be interviewing somebody for a position and from the first 5 minutes, they're not going to be your person. And I don't want to waste somebody's time, but at the same time, you're not going to be done talking to them in 5 minutes. What could you learn in the other 25? And I think that's a helpful way to approach talking to people, particularly people who are coming from like entirely different industries, environments, cultures, whatever it is. I'm often inspired by, a tidbit that somebody tells me about something else completely. Well, that'll somehow translate in my brain to something that works for me. So
that's a great advice. So those were all the questions that I had today, Lizzy. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the podcast, for sharing your business story, startup story, and all the strategies and tactics that you have used to start and grow your business. So thank you so much again. If anyone wants to go and check out your products, what is the best way for them to do that? And what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Sure. Thank you for having me. You can find me online at maziandzo.com, MAZIANDZO. And you can follow us online at maziandzo on Instagram. And if you want to shop the site, I made a discount code for your audience called Trep Talk 20 for 20% off your purchase. And I'll make that live for 30 days after this airs.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lizzy, for doing that. And thank you so much again for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing your story. And wish you all the best in your business.
Thanks so much.